What a great day in America, because our president, Donald J. Trump, promised to make America great again, and he has delivered on that promise. Oh, it's a new day in America, my friends. No more killing babies on the taxpayer dime. It is a new day in America. No more FBI raids on the homes of pro-lifers. It is a new day in America. No more government spying on evangelical Christians or Roman Catholics in their church houses. It is a new day in America. No more big, hairy men prancing around in the girls' locker rooms. It is a new day in America. And it is a new day on the international stage as well. Now, the last president, when he met with world leaders, would just wander off into the wilderness. Joe, Joe, Joe. Everybody knew what was going on, even the French, they knew. They knew that Joe's cheese had done slid off his cracker. Now compare that with President Trump arriving on the scene. At the NATO summit at The Hague this week, did you see that? Did you ever imagine that world leaders, the head of NATO, would call our great president Daddy? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy, France? Who's your daddy, Switzerland? Who's your daddy, Democrats? Now, this is somewhat a religious gathering. We got to keep it family friendly. Now, that doesn't mean that we still have some problems, right? We've got to push the Senate to pass the BBB, the big beautiful bill. And we also need to encourage our majority leader, John Thune, to fire that Senate parliamentarian who was hired by the late Harry Reid. Now, I've got a simple solution, because the senators are all working right now up on Capitol Hill. And here's what I want to recommend. We gather them all in a room together and tell them they have half an hour to get this all sorted out. Otherwise, Daddy is coming to Capitol Hill. You know, I love this nation. My new book is called Star-Spangled Blessings, Devotions for Patriots. We wrote a book to celebrate the greatness of America. We wrote a book to share stories that the entire family can enjoy together around the breakfast table or after supper, to explore why God has blessed this great nation. Ronald Reagan gave a speech once, and he said, you know, freedom is just one generation away from extinction. We all know that speech, but he also delivered another speech, not so familiar. He said that it's an interesting thing about our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. It doesn't have a declaration. It's just a series of questions set to music. Is the flag still there? Can you still see the flag? That's a question that every generation of Americans must answer. You know, I love what President Trump said about America, and I wrote this in the book. He said that if we really want to make America great again, if we really want to make our nation great, he said that America has to pray again, and that Americans have to read their Bibles again. You see, I believe that President Trump knows what Ronald Reagan and Dwight D. Eisenhower and many of other Christian leaders believed, that really what's happening in America is not about politics. We are dealing with spiritual warfare. You see, we as believers are not called to be Republicans or Democrats. We are called to be ambassadors for Christ. I close my book in Star-Spangled Blessings with a story, a beautiful story about Ronald Reagan sharing the gospel message. He was literally witnessing to someone in the Oval Office. And in spite of all of the things happening in the world at the time, President Reagan understood that the most important issue for that day, the most important mission, was to rescue one soul. And that's exactly what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, if we are going to make America great again.